Hi everyone, this is going to be our last video and it is going to cover part 3 of module 5. We're going to cover the last 3 little study assignments and then I'll talk to you about the final presentation. We're going to be talking about kind of wrapping it up. If you'll notice, we've kind of gone through a chronological thing here, and now at the end here we're talking about how to get a job. This is really important, and it seems kind of odd that we're covering things like interviewing and resumes and conclusions in here, but I want you to know that I feel like this is really crucial that you learn this right now today, and you should start putting it all together right now, right here at the beginning of your career in college, before you even, before you've even really picked a career. I want you to get started on it right now. So let's hop into resumes, and the first thing I want to tell you about resumes is pretty straightforward. Well, that's kind of lopsided. Start your resume now. But Mr. Thomas, I've just started college and I don't have anything. Doesn't matter. Start putting your resume together right now, and then make a plan to update your resume frequently. Now, I'm a school teacher, so I have 2 natural points in a year that I have some time off. I have some time off at Christmas and I have some time off in the summer. Therefore, I have taught myself to take a half of a day at Christmas, and it really doesn't even take that much, but I pick a day at Christmas on my Christmas break, and one of my goals for that day is to sit down and pull out my resume and update it. And then I do the same thing in the summertime, pick a day and update it. Now, the reason I do this is because if you update with frequency, it's 2 things. It's easier to keep it updated. You only have to go in there and update a few things. Plus, you tend to not forget to add things. So let me add that one more thing as a little bit of a hint about your resume. If you really start thinking about your resume and you start thinking about your career, as you go through your day, your week, your month, your life, you will all of a sudden sometime go, hey, I should put that on my resume. And then you will go, that's a great idea. Yes, it should definitely go on your resume, but you'll forget it. So do yourself a favor. Find a spot on your phone that you can keep some notes. I use Google Keep. And if I come up with an idea for something that should go on my resume, I immediately make a note. Or before I started using Google Keep, I would text my wife. I would text my wife, say, a note that was mostly to me, but she would get the text and go, what are you talking about? And then I'd say, don't worry about it, I was just making a note. But do yourself a favor and record it electronically so that when the time comes for you to update your resume, you can just pull it right up and pop it in there. Now, I keep my resume on my Google Drive, and I know where it is, so I can literally pull up my resume almost at any point and update it. Also, that's very handy because you'll need to be able to access your resume sometimes within hours. Sometimes an opportunity comes up to do something that requires a resume, and you don't want to have to go digging around for it. You certainly don't want to have to be creating it. I was teacher of the year one time, actually teacher of the year a couple of times, but they wanted a copy of my resume. Okay, it took me 5 minutes to pull that thing out, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I have a master resume that I then make a copy of that, and I go through and I kind of clean it up for whatever specific job I'm going for. So when I got teacher of the year, just pulled out my master resume, made a copy of it, went in and took out a few things that I didn't think were relevant, cleaned it up a little bit. Took me literally 15 minutes to get them my resume. And so when I find that I make resumes all the time, or I submit my resume all the time. Sometimes it's part of a credit check. It's kind of a weird thing, but sometimes they ask for a resume. Sometimes the information on the resume is useful in other places. Sometimes I apply for volunteer positions where I'm not even going to get paid, but they'd like to see my resume. I have a full-time job. Believe it or not, Indian River is my part-time job, and so I'm always looking for other part-time jobs, and a lot of times they ask for your resume as well. In fact, I'm putting together my resume right now because I'm going to apply for another part-time job. Just a little something on the side, but it's so nice to be able to just go in there and look at it and go, oh yeah, we're all caught up, just change that date, fix that, This is going to be going to this type of job, so they don't need to know about this, they don't need to know about this, and clean it up and shoot it to them. So do yourself a favor, start putting your resume together now, and be prepared to share it liberally, because it's one of those things that basically defines you. And as you go through and start getting better and better at writing your resume and keeping it up, it may not look very robust now because you don't have much life experience, you don't have much employment experience, you don't have much college experience. But the more you add to it, the more you'll be able to sell yourself. Resumes are just like anything else. They require practice. And when you go into a job interview, if you have a quality resume that you are confident in, that you spent some time on, it's going to make you feel better about the interview. It's going to make you do a better job. Resume means it comes from the French word for summary, and it should literally summarize your professional and personal experiences. We're going to go through a list of things to do and don't put in, but one of the things I believe, my personal feeling about a resume, is that it can't be too, what's the word? It can't be too, oh, give me a minute, I'll think of the word. Hold on, I'm going to pause it. Okay, for lack of a better word, detailed. When I say I keep a copy of like a master resume, I literally put anything I can think of into it. And then when I then make a copy of that resume that I'm going to send to someone else, I go through and I take out things that I don't think are relevant. It makes a more robust resume, and it kind of explains you and describes you better. And that's the goal here. Because what I want you to do is I want you to put yourself into the position of being in charge of human resources for some company or whatever you want to apply. Their first interaction with you is going to be your cover letter and your resume. We'll talk about cover letters in a minute, but their first interaction with you are going to be these two things. They don't know you. They don't know who you are, what you look like, that you're a good guy, that you are good to your mama, and you mow your grandmother's yard. They don't know all that. All they know is here's a guy wanting a job for me. How are they going to convince me? And so the resume needs to be as complete as possible. Now the downside to that is also resumes should only be about 2 pages. So there's an art here. There's an interesting art of trying to cram as much about you as you can into 2 pages without making it look too busy, too dense, and making it look professional. So yeah, resume writing is a very interesting process. We're going to talk about what it should be, but hopefully you know by now that it should be a list of your work experience, a list of your education experience, your job related skills, your accomplishments, okay, which are different necessarily than work experience, your volunteer history, any internships, residencies, and or more. Now, volunteer history, internships, and residencies may not happen, but here's one thing that I would encourage you to do right now this day is start looking for an opportunity to do one or more of these things. Most people end up with a volunteer history. Volunteer, and it really doesn't matter where you volunteer, but one of the things that employers look for is this ability to step outside of yourself and give of yourself. So the more you volunteer, the more you have a volunteer history, the better you will be at, the more marketable you'll look. If you have completed internships, which a lot of you guys probably haven't by now, and that's fine, and residencies are kind of a rare thing, but list them, okay? Remember, we're trying to give the person who reads this a quick general idea of who you are, but also a kind of, I know it's oxymoronic, general but concise, but we want them to get a good idea of who you are. And this is to your example, or to your benefit as well. One thing you should never do is embellish. Don't ever stretch the truth. Don't hyperbolize. Just tell them, okay? What you want is to find the job that fits you. If you tell them exactly who you are in a concise, professional manner, and they're not interested, good, because it's not the job for you. So there's tons of jobs out there. There always will be, I promise. And at that point, you want to make sure that you're matching this job. And this person from HR is very good at what they do. Almost, I promise, almost completely, that the HR person is very good at finding the right employee. And if you're not the right employee, Don't try to shoehorn it. Something to remember, okay? Now, as a recent college student or as a college student or recent graduate, you may not have a lot of stuff to put into your resume, and that's okay. That's why we start building it now. And by the time you graduate college, you're going to have something. You're going to have a robust resume, even if it's kind of thin because you don't have a ton of experience. It's still going to look good. All right. So, elements of your successful resume. First of all, in there's a couple of ways to do it. Reverse chronological is I pick things like work experience, education experience, volunteer experience, and then I go through and I literally put a date, starting from the most recent job and the times. From September of 2004 to January of 2011, I did this, right? And then what did you do before September of 2004? Then you write that, and you keep going back in reverse. Same thing with your education history. Where did you go to college and when? Same thing with your volunteer history. Another way to look at it is, and by the way, I'm not going to pull them up. Here's some examples. I encourage you to click them. A functional resume is the same thing. Except instead of being chronological, it's focused around your talents and skills and abilities. So what did you, where did you work and what did you do there? What did you learn from there? What skills do you have that were applicable there? And that's a great thing to do. Personally, I prefer a hybrid resume that is a combination of both. You list your duties, or you list your events in reverse chronological order, and from that point on you then put in a very short sentence or well constructed paragraph that explains what you did there. So it's a hybrid resume. Now, in this day and age, and all you millennials out there, and whatever generations are after the millennials, you may want to do something electronic or digital, and that is a possibility, but making a video resume, an infographic resume, or a website resume is certainly something people do today, but I would encourage you to either rethink that, or at the very least do that in addition to the paper-based traditional resume, because most HR departments, this says some, but I'm going to go ahead and say most, won't accept anything except a paper resume. Now, you may be able to submit the paper resume digitally. In fact, most of them are doing that now, but they're not going to take the infographic, website, or video. Now, what I will say is that they would like to see a LinkedIn. If you guys remember, we talked about it. It's kind of like Facebook, but for professionals. If you have a LinkedIn account, which you should, and if you don't, go make one. That's something that they like to see also. So add in your LinkedIn account and give them access to it. Okay. Here are some things to include in your essay, or in your resume. Your contact information, including your name, address, phone number, professional email address. Yes, if you have a website that is about you, then you can throw that in there. A summary of your skills, so pick 5 to 10 skills you've gained in your field. You can list hard as well as soft skills. You remember, hard skills are things like ability to operate an IBM blah 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 machine. That's a specific skill. And the soft skills are things like deals with the public, is able to solve problems, that sort of thing. Okay. List your work experience. Now, depending on the format you choose, but you will probably do the reverse chronological order. List the title of the position, your employer's name, the location of the job, and the employment dates. Okay, and then for those dates, when you started and when you stopped. If you are still there, you can go September of 2004 to current, right? And I have that on a couple of things that I have on my resume. What is your volunteer experience? I happen to have a lot of volunteer experience, and now, while I don't want you to embellish, when I list my volunteer experience, I do the same thing in reverse chronological order. There's some things I previously volunteered for that I've pulled back on, and some things that I'm currently volunteering for. Sometimes, in my case, my volunteer experience tends to blend a little bit with my work experience, and I can't decide which I want to do. Personally, unless it is clearly a job in which I earn a check, a salary, I don't put it under work experience. I put it under volunteer experience. Here's an example. I work for the Florida State Science and Engineering Fair. I am on the board of directors, and I run one department in the Science and Engineering Fair. While that is technically because I'm a science teacher, I consider that volunteer. I do the same thing for the International Science and Engineering Fair. I volunteer for them, but that is, again, I'm not getting paid, so I list it under my volunteer work. Education and training is very simple. Where have you been? What have you done? But it's not just college. It's also any type of training you've been, like on a weekend. If you've been to a weekend training and you want to list that, this is one of the places where it's nice to update your resume often, because you tend to forget some. I go to these things all the time, and while some of them I don't feel are relevant to most jobs, I still list it onto my general resume. And then of course when I go to submit things, they may come out, but they're there if I need them, right? So make sure you're listing every form of education and training you've been to. And I've been to some really weird trainings. I've been to CPR trainings, firefighting training. I'm a science teacher, but I have learned how to do fire suppression, search and rescue. I've been to quite a bit of weapons training, and whether or not that's relevant, it still goes into my general resume, and then I back off on that and take it out before I submit it if it's not relevant to the job I'm applying for. You may want to have a references statement. I think references available upon request is a standard phrase. It's also often implied. You don't even have to put that. Whether or not you actually put references on your resume is optional, although most people leave it off. You know HR is going to ask for references, and they're going to want it on a completely separate file, so most of the time people just leave it off. You may also want to add things like a job objective, what you plan on doing if you get this job, a brief profile, a branding statement, and I wanted to show you, I had to look it up, okay, but I wanted to show you an example of a branding statement. This is a quick 2-page resume. Actually, this is a 1-page resume that from a website called thebalancecareers.com, and you can see how they've included professional experience, okay, and some other professional experience here. They've actually had 2 jobs: developmental assistant at a hospital and recruitment manager at a nonprofit, and where they listed their particular skills that they did, just as an example. But read this: social media manager, detail-oriented fund development assistant, experienced in coordinating extensive fundraising efforts and drafting successful grant proposals. That's a branding statement, and you may want to include that. Hold on, where am I at? Yeah, y'all just saw some of my personal life. No big deal. Right here, there I am. Okay. Now listen, resumes resemble snowflakes in as much as no two are alike. So there is a kind of an art to this, like I've said before, and you can go through and make this your own if you want. Now, one thing I would encourage you not to do is get artsy. There's no room here for pictures. There's no room here for fancy little digital artwork to go on this thing. No colors, okay? This is a black and white professional piece of paper in which you choose a normal font, Arial, Times New Roman, or Calibri, and that's it. You write it in there. Now what you can do is adjust the font size. You can adjust the, let me go back to this one real fast. When you look at this, there it is. You can adjust the font size, you can bold, you can do some indentation, and you can change, like, your headline, your headings can be all caps. This is fine. This is totally acceptable. But what you don't want to go in here and do is to highlight things with a highlighter tool, or to change colors. The only thing I've ever seen is right at the top. I have seen instead of it say Benjamin applicant 1 2 3, all of this was put more in the middle. The Benjamin applicant, that's the name, was a little bit larger, and in between here and there I have seen people put a very respectable, professional looking color line, and that's it. That is the only place color should be put onto your resume. Okay, here's some other things not to do. Don't mention your age, your gender, your height, or your weight. This isn't relevant for anything at no point, so don't mention it. Don't include your social security number. Don't mention religious beliefs or political affiliations unless they're relevant to the position. If you're applying for a job in a religious-based company, whether it's like at a church or even at a like a hospital, such as Advent Hospital, that is ran by a Christian group, that point it is probably relevant to mention your religious beliefs. If you're applying for a job with a political organization such as the Democratic National Party or the Republican National Party or something like that, then you may want to you discuss your political affiliations. But other than that, they don't go there. Okay. Do not include a photo of yourself or a physical description. Now that seems a little silly if you are applying as a model or a spokesperson. So I suppose that a headshot might be relevant if it's one of those positions where you're visible and you're being hired for your physical looks. I guess that's probably a little different, but other than that, I would not include those things. Do not mention health issues of any form. Do not use first-person references when you're writing. I am a detail-oriented development assistant. No, that isn't how it works. In fact, let's just go back to this again. Here we look at this. They don't say I am a detail-oriented development assistant. It just starts out with detail-oriented. Okay, so don't include wage or salary expectations. That will be brought up in the interview. Don't use abbreviations and then have it proofread carefully and then hand it to somebody else and ask them to proofread it. No spelling mistakes, no grammatical errors are acceptable at all. In fact, I personally have heard of HR people who will take an otherwise perfectly good resume and remove it from consideration simply because there were spelling errors. When you are in a situation where you're literally looking at 25 to 30 applicants for a single job, you are always looking for a way to kind of filter out and reduce that 30 stack. You don't want to interview 30 people. You want to interview 5 people. So how do you go from having 30 applicants to 5 interviews? One of the ways you do it is you look at the resume and the professional level of it. And if there's a misspelled word, one single misspelled word, it may get you removed. So please make sure that you are looking for it. If you're not typing it up in a word processor, which gives you the little green and red squiggly lines, fix that. Have someone else read it. It's really important. Okay, a successful resume is only about 1 to 2 pages long in a letter-sized paper. Don't try to make it dense. Don't try to cram too much in there. Make sure there is some white space, because remember, somebody's going to be reading this, and this is a good density. There's some space in between. Even here, look, right in between these 2 lines, there's not a huge amount of it's not too tight. It's spread out okay. You don't look like you're trying to put too much in. So I totally believe in that. So remember, I told you it's an art. How do you figure out how to put everything about you and don't make it look too dense, right? Use action verbs and phrases, and here's a whole list. And I'm actually going to open this up because I'm still working on my resume a little bit. Make it visually appealing, and that's part of the density process. Proofread it. Dear heavens to Betsy, please proofread it. Okay? Include highlights of your qualifications or skills to attract an employer's attention, but only the highlights. Don't feel like you need to go too in depth. What you want to do is like tease them into wanting to ask you those questions in an interview. One of the main things you can think about a resume is, this is the thing that gets me an interview. I have applied to jobs before and not even gotten an interview, and there's several reasons for that. And don't take it personally. Okay? It means nothing about you. There are 30 people that applied. They picked 5, and you were number 6. So don't worry about it. All right. Craft your letter as a pitch to people in the profession you plan to work on. Think of your audience. Who are you sending this to? Stand out as different, as courageous. And this is one thing that's spoken to me right now as I'm preparing a resume, because I'm trying to think of what is different, what is courageous about me applying for this job. And I actually got something. I'm kind of proud of it. Be positive and only reflect the truth. So a positive statement or a positive tone is crucial, but only reflecting the truth. I cannot impress this upon you enough. Under no circumstances should you lie on your resume. Under no circumstances should you even embellish or hyperbolize. As I said before, tell the truth and don't stretch it. Be excited and optimistic about your job prospects. That may be just kind of a tone. It's not something that you should necessarily reflect in the resume, but as you're writing the resume, be excited and optimistic, and that tone may come through in the writing. All right, and then as I said before, keep refining and reworking your resume. It's an ongoing project. Okay, great video here, tips for college students from employers. Okay, here's a whole bunch of websites to help you out, and these work great. One thing I would encourage you to look through some of these things, okay? But one thing you may want to do is look at this, 11 free resume templates right in Microsoft Word. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can still get resume templates for things like Google Docs. A resume template is a great place to start. I started with a resume template, absolutely. The next thing we're going to talk about are cover letters. The thing is that a cover letter literally does this. It is a letter that covers your resume. It is designed to be the first thing that the potential employer sees, that HR sees. They're going to look at the cover letter before they look at the resume. A cover letter is very short. It's a letter of introduction, 3 to 4 paragraphs in length, and it goes on the front of your resume. It introduces you, and it tells them why you're suited for the position. Yeah, they're looking for individualized and thoughtfully written cover letters. While you may want to look at a lot of examples, this is going to be a situation in which you really need to do some creative writing. Okay, I will tell you that it is a screening out process. And this, remember how I told you that they got 30 applicants, they want to interview 5? This is one of the main reasons that they will pick you to be interviewed, is they'll read your cover letter. A lot of those 30 applicants, they won't even get to the resumes. They'll look at the cover letters and take 30 down to 10, and then they'll take, after reading the resumes, they'll take 10 down to 5. So when you'd be surprised. Sometimes they don't even request a cover letter. Sometimes you cannot even submit a cover letter. But for the most part, they'll ask for cover letters. Okay. Cover letters should do the following. They should get the attention of the prospective employer. They should set you apart from any possible competition as much as possible. Think about this. Why should you get the job over someone else? This is a competition. Make sure that you're clearly explaining why you, and remember, you only have 3 to 4 paragraphs to do this, but explain why you are well suited and the person they should hire. Identify the position you're interested in. That should be right in there somewhere. How did you learn about the position or the company? How did you find it? And you can put all this in just a few sentences in one of the 4 paragraphs. Present highlights of your skills and accomplishments. And so that's kind of a really brief summary of your resume, which is already a summary. So you have to summarize the summary. Reflect your genuine interest, and it should be, again, the density should be clear. You should not try to make it too tight. Don't expect them to read in 4 paragraphs. Don't expect them to read 750 words. 4 paragraphs should be about 200 to 250 words. So again, huge art here to writing a resume. Good videos to tell you how to do that. Okay, and some cover letter resources. And I like to look at examples, and I'm not going to show these to you, but I'm going to look at some myself. Right? Okay. That's going to end this particular one on resumes. Now we're going to talk about interviewing. Okay, the interview. So your resume and cover letter were good enough to get you an interview. How do I not goof this up? Because remember, you're not the only one being interviewed. If you were the only one being interviewed, then they probably wouldn't have to go through the process. They may just bring you in, sit you down, and say, hey, we're going to give you the job. So, and I've actually had that happen. But for the most part, you're still competing with 5 people that were absolutely the top 5 out of 30. Now, I'm making these numbers up, but that's about the right ratio. Okay, and so how do you now take and become the number 1 person out of the 5 that were picked from the resumes? A couple of things. We're gonna talk about preparing for the job interview. Make sure you've read the job description. when you find the advertisement for the job, one thing that you need to do is read the job description clearly. Make sure you understand everything. Even print it out and have a copy of it with you before, while you're sitting in the waiting room waiting for the interview. You know what? I want to talk about that for just a minute. Make sure that when it's, you know what? I'm going to save that. We'll come back. Research the company or the organization. Know something about them. Know something about their goal. Know something about when they started. Who's the CEO? And that'll, as you do that search for that information, you can start thinking about how you fit in. What soft skills do you have that would be specific to this job? Remember, hard skills, that's pretty easy to identify. Either you can or you can't use this piece of software or build this particular bridge or something. But the soft skills, those are the ones that you can sell yourself on, okay? Practice answering some common questions. The last time I had an interview, I spent a few days getting ready. I anticipated what kind of questions they may ask. I did some research on some types of questions. There's actually a place down at the bottom where you can find some help yourself, but you can Google that. And I spent some time trying to answer these questions. Now, I had no idea what type of interview I was going to be going into. Are you going to be sitting across from a person at a desk? Because I'm a teacher, I was actually brought into a classroom and put in front of a group of instructors from the department, and I was told to stand in front of them like I was a teacher. So here I am dressed in my finest suit, but I have a whiteboard in front of me, and I was asked to do the interview as a teacher. So, I didn't get that job, but that's, no big deal. Dress appropriately. Great question or great point I'd like to make, and I'm going to add to this completely in just a minute. Dress appropriately. Now, what does appropriate mean? Well, are you applying for a professional position? Then you better be wearing a shirt, a nicely pressed shirt, tie, nice slacks, and a decent pair of shoes. If you are applying for a more of a blue collar or construction type of a position, you may not necessarily need to dress that way, although I wouldn't show up wearing an old pair of overalls. Dress a little bit better than you think you should have to, and you won't go wrong. I remember one time when the way they do Teacher of the Year is you get Teacher of the Year for your school, then they interview you for Teacher of the Year for the district. And I got Teacher of the Year for the school, and I'm a blue jeans and boots kind of a person. And I showed up for the interview dressed as I would for a teacher. And I showed up wearing my boots, my blue jeans, a nice dress shirt. I made sure my breath was in good shape. I brushed my hair. My wife checked my nose for hairs. But when I got there and I sat down, one of the person interviewing, and I went to school with this person, and I was kind of mad at them, but they weren't right. They were wrong. I mean, they were right. I was wrong. They stood up and walked around and looked and saw that I was wearing blue jeans. And there was nothing said, but it was very obvious that they looked at my blue jeans and they went and sat back down. And in the discussion they had after I left, it is a guarantee that they said something like this: he did great, but he wore blue jeans to the interview. And so that may have gotten me the district Teacher of the Year job, or recognition. And that's okay. I learned something. Dress slightly better than you think you should. Okay? Come prepared. Bring your resume. Oh, I have something else I want to say about dress appropriately. Be there on time. Here's the deal. Let's suppose you have an interview at 2 o'clock. Should you arrive at 2 o'clock? Absolutely not. Let's suppose it's a 30-minute drive from your house to the place to interview. Should you leave at 1:30? Absolutely not. You have no idea what the traffic is going to be like from there to there. You have no idea what it's going to be like to park. You have no idea what it's going to be like to try to get into the building. There may be security you have to pass through. In this day and age, there's plenty of that. Also, you don't want to rush. You don't want to be rushed, run and get there right at the last minute, because what you'd like to do is have some time to sit in, let your heart rate calm down, collect your thoughts, calm yourself down, maybe do whatever type of meditation or prayer would help you to feel more confident. Go to the restroom, okay? There's lots of things you may want to do. I would encourage you, If the interview is at 2 o'clock, I would encourage you to plan to be there at 1:30 and do whatever it takes to get there. Schedule your day to get there earlier. Okay. Now, what about eating or something? Should you eat? That's going to be up to you. Do you have a stomach that gets a little upset if you've eaten? I personally have a stomach that gets a little upset if I don't eat. So therefore, one of the things that I planned was eating a decent meal, low in sugar, high in protein, avoid the caffeine, avoid alcohol for the love of God, but I avoided caffeine excessively. Now, I may have had a Coke or a small coffee or something, but that depends on you. But think about that. Okay, plan or come prepared. Bring your resume. But I already submitted my resume. Yeah, I know. Bring it anyways. Bring your cover letter. Bring a list of references. Okay, but I've already submitted all that. Yes, I know, and they'll have it. But if you bring a copy of your resume, at least one for you and one for one person interviewing, and you offer it to them, they will almost always say, no, it's okay, I have a copy of it here, but you look more prepared. And in addition to that, you will have your own copy that you can refer to while you're being interviewed. And they may say, Mr. Thomas, on your resume it says that in September of 2004 you were working for such and such, and you can look at it and see what they're saying, and it'll help you. Okay, some things you also may want to bring: a portfolio of representative work. What have you been doing? Okay, do not bring a cup of coffee. Do not be chewing gum. Do not walk in looking at your phone. Make sure your phone is on silent. Make sure your phone is off. That sort of thing. Be confident. Above all, interviewees should be confident and courageous. Walk in there and feel like if they don't hire me, that's their problem, because I am the right man for the job, the right woman for the job. Walk in there and feel confident. This is a situation in which they can smell fear, and don't let them have it. Okay? Now, there's various ways they're going to interview you. The first is a screening interview. It's kind of a weeding out interview. It may take place over the phone. It may take place over Zoom. And in fact, the whole thing may go over Zoom in this day and age. But the first interview might be a low stakes, just, hey, how are you? Listen, I'm going to be interviewing you next week. They're listening to see how well you speak on the phone, how well you communicate. Do you stutter? Are you not confident? Are you unsure about the job? Because they may just decide, we'll let you know if we need you for an interview. By the way, if they say that, they're probably not going to call you back. So for this screening interview, take the time to speak clearly, and don't be unsure. This is a great time for confidence, and so make sure you kind of show that. Then the phone or web wait, I want to go back to this. These are rarely surprises. It's not that they're going to call you at some point and say, hey, this is from HR from such and such company. We want to talk to you for a minute. They'll normally schedule it. Hey, can we have a 2 o'clock phone call? So you'll know ahead of time so you can prepare. The next interview may be over the phone or a web conference. And so you're going to have to now sell yourself with not being face to face. In fact, they're not going to be able to see you. They're going to talk to you on the phone, and you're going to need to have some great skills, okay? Some communication skills. If there is a video conference, a Zoom conference, then do yourself a favor. Maybe Zoom with somebody else first and just give them some ideas as to how things look. Check the lighting. Make sure the background doesn't have, a Bob Marley poster hanging up, right? Make sure that there's a nice, clear, pleasing background that's neutral and not distracting. If you do get to actually have an interview with somebody live, there could be two possibilities. It can be one-on-one, where you go sit with one person and you have a connection. And don't be afraid to be a little congenial, but try to remain professional. This isn't time to start talking about football, unless that isn't a relevant topic. This isn't the time to start cracking jokes. It is time to just sit down and be professional but approachable and congenial. Okay, and then of course, and you can start to build a rapport with the interviewer. Now remember, they've done this before, and they can smell, for lack of a better term, BS from a long way off. So be genuine, be yourself as much as you can. and you'll be surprised at how well you do. And then of course there's the panel interviews. The panel interview is the opposite of the one-on-one interview. The panel interview is when you go have an interview with several people and you're one person. I told you about the standing in the front of the room, pretending to be a teacher. I think I had probably 12 people in the room, and I actually had to deliver a lesson to them, right? The another interview that I had was just simply a group of professionals from the college that I was applying to, and we all sat in a room, and I sat at the head of the table, and they all sat in a U shape on the other end of the table, and there were 7 faces staring at me, and I was the center of attention. And if you're a type of person that can struggle with that, you may not like it, but it is something that is a big possibility, and you have to be prepared for all of them. I was not told in that particular case what type of interview I was going to have, and I walked in and I had 7 people interviewing me. What you need to do is to not show that that has shaken you. So plan on having both kinds when you don't know what's happening. You may have a one-on-one or a panel interview. Serial interviews are just that. It's a series of it's a combination of one-on-one meetings, typically is staggered throughout the day. You show up to the HR department and there's 5 people that need to talk to you, but they will not be talking to you at one time, so you're going to be scheduled to go through all 5 of these at the company's schedule, not yours, and you have to be ultra prepared and ready to answer all these questions. The best thing I can say about a serial interview is stay alert. Don't get tired. One of my favorite type of interviews is a lunch interview. Okay, that's when you are taking a lunch or dinner, and this may seem casual. This may seem a time where you can let yourself go, but I promise you, a lunch interview is designed to see how you behave. I will tell you that you must be on your very best behavior, and you can act relaxed. You should, but you need to make sure that you're on your best behavior. Do not order an alcoholic beverage, even if they are. You can let them, if they even insinuate that you should order an alcoholic beverage, just say no, thank you. I'm just gonna go with a soft drink today. Tea, water, something like that. They're going to watch how you handle your utensils, your forks. I have a friend who even suggested that when the food arrives, that if you're the type of person to put salt or something in your food, don't do it, because they want to see if you are tasting the food before you make a decision. Some people just go straight to the salt and you didn't even taste the food. Little silly things like that. Lunch interviews are probably the biggest scrutiny I've ever seen. And so make sure that you understand that it's still an official interview. And then finally there's group interviews. I've never had one of these, but you might be in a room full of other prospective employees, and there's a presentation made by the interviewer to the potential employees. And it's kind of a pre-screening. It gives you an opportunity. You can show how much you know about the company. It also sees how you interact with others. How did you behave with the group? Did you assume a leadership role? That's crucial. Are you quiet but attentive? What kind of personality is the company looking for? So there's a video that shows that. Now, the interview questions, what will I be asked? There's no limit. They can literally ask you anything that's legal, So this is a place to prepare, and this is what I'm gonna ask you to just go look it up, because this is such a huge topic. There's no telling. Okay. Ask yourself this question though: why should we hire you? And you should keep that in mind as you prepare, because they may not actually come out and say why should we hire you, but every question they ask is ultimately why should we hire you. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Now finally we're going to jump over here to conclusions. Now before we end, this is the end. This is the last thing that I'm going to teach you, and now I'm going to show you how to do the final presentation, and that's it. But success is a journey, not a destination, and I hope you get that from this class, because what that really means is you're going to be constantly working on yourself throughout your entire career. Okay. I've been teaching 24 years. I feel like I have about 12 more to go. So I'm 2/3 of the way through. In the next 12 years, I hope to reinvent myself again. I hope to challenge myself constantly. I hope to find myself in a position to where I'm looking for something that's going to push me, challenge me, excite me, encourage me. I may even totally change careers. I don't think so, but who knows? And with the way the world is changing so rapidly, I have to tell you that you are going to be in a situation to where you will need to be prepared for change. So if you know that change is probably coming, you're prepared for it, and you're ready to deal with it, then you're better off. One of the ways to deal with that is with balance. Okay, so achieving and maintaining a balance is important. A balance between what? Personally, I think it's a balance between work and family. I try to make sure that I'm not a workaholic, that I have time for my family. Also make sure that I don't just spend time on my family and ignore my work. Find a balance. Find a balance in your life. Find a balance in your success. Okay? And then there's persistence. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, kind of, but he had literally 10,000 failed experiments before he finally got the light bulb to work. One of the most amazing inventions of all time, and it didn't happen on the first shot. Edison is a great example of something I hope you've learned from me, is that failure is a common part, is a crucial part. In fact, most of success is failure. Failure is a crucial part of success. Okay, James Dyson invented the bagless vacuum cleaner, and it took him 15 years. It's crazy. But now we've taken this stuff from Sir James Dyson, this idea of this rotating vortex, and we've applied it to so many things. And we have a lot of, not just the bagless vacuum cleaner, but we have lots of things that are based around his results. And he was made a knight. He is Sir James Tyson because of this. I tell you that because persistence. Okay, it took him 5,127 prototypes and 15 years to get it right, but he got it right. And I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. What a great attitude. Okay, failure is not really failure if you're learning from it. Teamwork is another thing that you're going to have to. You won't be working by yourself. And the more you can learn to operate in a team, be a leader at times, and also be letting someone else take the lead at times, a crucial thing to do, a crucial thing to be prepared for. Make good decisions. That's what I'm going to leave you with, is make good decisions. And the way you make good decisions is to slow down, plan ahead, be prepared, study, and research your jobs, research your college plans, research everything. Rarely in life are you is opportunity going to walk up to you and say, you have to make a decision right here, right now, or else I'm leaving. That rarely is going to happen. Most of the time, opportunity is a result of long-term preparedness, long-term persistence, and it'll finally catch up with you. And I mean, it'll finally pay off. Stay optimistic, stay persistent, stay positive. You'll do all right. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the final presentation, then I'm done. So finally, where we are here is the career project. This is your final presentation for the class. It needs to be submitted electronically. My suggestion would be that you create a PowerPoint or a Google slide. You can do it in other ways. They always look clunky to me, but you may use something like one of these other, I forget what they're even called. You can do an infographic. There's lots of ways you can do it. Most people give me a Google slide or a PowerPoint because it's just easiest. Okay, you should take a look at this PDF, career resources. These are things we've already done, but these are correlated directly to parts of the final assignment, which I'll show you. So this is a great place if you're like, I don't know where that is. You can go look for it here. You should have already done a lot of this, but here are some places to help. The next thing is the actual project assignment. So I'm gonna pull this up over here. Okay, it kind of goes through step by step, tells you what to do. You're going to choose a career that's hopefully something that fits around your personality, your aptitudes, your interests. You can choose any career that's of interest to you, although it's going to be easier for you if you pick one that is a career that requires a college major, and it will be even easier if you pick a career that requires a college major that IRSC offers. But you can pick anything. Okay, you should complete the kind of a research project, although I'm not going to ask you to hand in anything. I'm not going to ask you to write a paper, but you need to be looking at educational pathways, details, explanations, examples, statistics, and graphics. We've carried you through that already to some degree, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. You need to pay attention to organization, information quality, and you may want to use PowerPoint, Prezi, Sway, Word, or any other program of your choice. PowerPoint, of course, there's a Google Slides version as well. It needs to be readable. You need to make sure your grammar is correct, your spelling is correct, verbal and written usage, punctuation. This is a college assignment, so I expect a college level presentation. You need to make sure that your references are annotated. You have to have at least 3, although I don't know how you can possibly do it with 3. I do not mind if you only give me the URLs. You don't have to do an actual MLA style reference page. This is not that type of class. And here's a list of the required information. Now you can go through this at your own leisure, but I think what I'd like to do is, while I encourage you to look at this, part 5 is going to be the bulk of what you should be doing. What I really want you to do is look at the rubric. So let me get rid of this real fast. There's a rubric here. This is a Google Doc version. I'm sorry, this is a Word version from Microsoft. Here's a Google Doc version, and I'd like to pull that up because this is usually what my students tell me is the best thing. It helps them to understand what I'm asking for better than anything. This is what I'm going to use to grade your final presentation. Literally this. There are, I think, 10 sections, each with 5 points. You get a score of 0 through 5, and excuse me, and I add it all up and I give you your grade. Look at each one of these things. It tells you exactly what to expect or what to give me. I will then look at the information. If it's there and it's well done, I'm going to give you between 1 and 5 points. I will take off points for the assignment not being there. I will take off points for the I'll take off points if you don't address each one of these. Okay, so if you do a great job on, for example, in this one, if you do a great job in these first 3, but you don't talk about work environment, you're not going to get all 5 points. Salaries and job outlook. Again, this is part of work that we've already done, but you can refer to the previous page to show you where to go find that information. Education and training. Make sure that you're covering all this. If you look at a bullet point and you can't see it on your presentation, then it's not there. Okay, and I can't give you full credit for it. Results from your assessment inventories. This is a pretty simple thing, but there's more to it. In this case, I just want you to tell me your results. You did all these inventories. Now just give me the results of them. And I told you guys several times to make sure that you are saving this information. If you didn't save it, you may have to actually go back and redo it, but I want to see the results of all of these things, right? The reality check is just answer these questions, address this information. But the analysis goes back to the results, and this is important. And a lot of this stuff is just copy and paste, but here you're actually going to have to write and tell me, okay, based on all of these results from all these inventories, I want you to make a connection between all of these and the career you've chosen. Okay, why does your particular multiple intelligence, why is it going to be a good thing for you to have for your job? Why is the your Myers-Briggs typology indicator, why is that going to be a good thing to have for your job? That's what I'm going to be looking a lot for. If you don't do that, I will be giving you 0 points on this. Answer these questions. Are you a good fit for this career? Tell me why. Is this career right for you? Tell me why. If it's not right for you, that's a fine answer too. If you pick this career, you researched it, and you're like, this isn't going to work for me, tell me why. There's nothing wrong with that. I've had lots of students change their plans about college based on this class, and that's outstanding. That's the end of the information. After that is going to be presentation qualities. How well did you do? How does it look? Did you spell everything correctly? Did you make a good a good shot at doing well? Okay. Does it look clean? Does it look like you threw it together at the last minute? Does it have pictures? Does it have some type of what kind of presentation is it? It's college. I'm expecting you to do a good job. And then finally, I need your at least 3 references. There should be more. Give me as many references as you can, and then you're done. And when you get through, you submit it. And let's see, where do you submit it at? I think you actually click up here to submit it, and you're all set. And that's the end of it, everybody. When you get all that done, congratulations, you've completed the class. There is something that you might want to click right here at the end. Also, don't forget to look for the evaluation for me. Was sent to you as an email, and it's also somewhere on the opening page of Blackboard. I would encourage you to do that. I'm not going to try to tell you to necessarily give me a good rating. That's not the point. The point is that giving feedback is one of the most important things you can do, and the college is interested. The college does look at the feedback. So do yourself a favor and write feedback about the class, about the instructor, and when that happens, you will have had the ability to affect how this class is looked at. How am I looked at? And I want honest feedback. Be honest. Don't be mean. That's not the goal here. But if you feel like this class could be improved, or if you feel like it could, or it met your needs, please make sure you say that in the feedback form. And that's it, everybody. Good luck, and thank you very much for the time that we spent together.